Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my latest obsession, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. And when I say I'm obsessed, I'm not joking, because I got 100 hours into the game within the span of 2 weeks, it's not often that I get that obsessed with a game. Now, I am familiar with the Rune Factory games. I'm a fan of the series already anyway, so I was very excited and really anticipating this new game, especially because it's, unlike other Rune Factory games, it's set in the eastern continent of the world of Rune Factory. It's all very much based on Japanese culture, and I love Japanese culture. So it's like they made this game for me. In case you're not aware, Rune Factory is a action RPG slash farming slash life simulation game. It's basically everything. Everything that I like in a game is pretty much in Rune Factory, which is why I've always really liked this franchise. Even though not all of the Rune Factory games are the best, particularly Rune Factory 5 was quite a big disappointment. I've always kind of stuck with the series and look forward to the latest release because of how much potential this franchise has, in my opinion, as an IP. All the possibilities they have, because it has all of the right ingredients. They just kind of don't always get the actual cooking process correct, if you will. So in Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, you pick between two protagonists, either the male protagonist, Subaru, or the female protagonist, Kaguya. And in this case, I chose to go with Subaru because his character design was just more aesthetically pleasing to me. I don't know. So you pick between the male or female protagonist, and as an earth dancer, it's your job to restore the world, which is being essentially corrupted by blight. You don't know necessarily what's going on at the beginning, but you come to learn what's going on as you progress through the main story of the game. And the world of Azuma is set up where you've got 4 villages, one for each season. So there's a spring village, a summer village, an autumn village, and a winter village. And each of those villages has its own respective god that watches over and protects the village and the surrounding land. But because of the blight going on, they have lost a lot of their power, and so you need to purify the land and the blight in order to help restore their powers as well. The mainline story, I think, took me about 70 hours to get through. Granted, I was doing a lot of other side content while going through the main story, so that's probably why you can probably get through the main story quicker than that. But I would say overall the story is pretty good. It's one of the more interesting storylines in a Rune Factory game, I think, so far. The world is really good as well. The villages are all nice and quaint. There's a nice atmosphere. The graphics are nice. And then when you go out of the village and into the surrounding areas, there's these open zones that are actually quite a bit bigger than I was expecting. Thankfully, they're not empty. They're filled with a lot of things to collect, discover, and there's all of the blights that you'll need to purify in the surrounding areas and all of that. Then moving on to gameplay. The game is set up basically, you have the villages, you have the open zone areas, and then you have dungeons. The battle system is very simple, kind of button mashing pretty much, but you have a primary and a secondary weapon. So the primary weapon is for close combat, and the secondary weapon is for combat at distance, so it's things like a bow and arrow, that sort of thing. And you can choose between different kinds of weapons. So there's a short sword, a long sword, dual blades. So it means that you can switch it up a bit so that you don't get bored. And then there's a lot of skill trees to build up for each of the weapons and other things as well. For example, there's a skill tree to do with cooking. There's a skill tree to do with the social aspects of the game. There's a lot of skill trees. And there's also sacred weapons, which are directly linked to the gods in the game that you need to save. Then going on to the other big part of the game, which is also a new aspect in Rune Factory games, which is the town building mechanics. So with the town building mechanics, you're essentially free to do pretty much what you want. There will be some quests where you're asked to place certain buildings, but they don't specify a specific location or anything like that. So you can kind of just place everything where you want, pretty much, which gives you a lot of freedom. There's a lot of buildings to choose from, there's a lot of decor, so it makes it really fun, and you can really customize your towns pretty much however you want. And as the village chief of each of these villages, it is your job and your duty to rebuild the village and to restore it, make the villagers happy, and increase the population, because as you restore the villages, the population will increase, which leads me onto the next mechanic in the game, which is farming and being able to assign villagers certain work tasks. So you can streamline a lot in this game, from the farming, obviously, which has always been a big aspect in Rune Factory games, but here it's kind of not as prominent, because you have the choice of being able to do the farming yourself if you want to, but in order to progress throughout the main storyline, you kind of need to streamline it a little bit and have some of the villagers do some of the heavy lifting. So the villagers can be assigned various different tasks. So they can be assigned to take care of the fields and obviously the crops, or you can assign them to work in different stores and businesses in the village, because you can place businesses in the villages. So if you select villagers to run the business for you, you will earn income throughout the day. And obviously you can also earn income through farming, which if you assign villagers to do that, they will do all of that for you. And that means you can essentially streamline all of the money earning in the game, and you don't really need to do anything, because I mean, I just set all of it up. Villagers were doing it all, and now I am rich in the game. So, you know, it's very hands-off, and some people may like that and some people may not like that. I like it, but it also does mean that when you've completed the main story and you're trying to find other things to do, because that aspect is all streamlined, you're kind of like, well, what else is there to do? However, I will get into after-game content, because there is after-game content to go through. Then the next aspect in terms of gameplay is the social and life simulation aspects. So you can get married and have children in this game, and in order to do so, you need to interact with the villagers and build your bond level with them. And in a lot of these types of games, the only real way you can do that is to chat with them every day and give them a gift. But in Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, you can also do that, but you also have these hangout interactions, which there's a list of different interactions you can choose from, and all of the characters have certain interactions that they like, some that they dislike, and then a lot that they're fairly neutral towards. So part of the game is trying to figure out what interactions they like in order to boost your bond level with them. And once you reach bond level 3 with any of the romanceable characters, you will then be able to unlock their bond quests, which as you progress through the bond quests, that increases your intimacy level with these characters, which is a different meter to your bond meter, because there's a bond meter and an intimacy meter, and the intimacy meter is specifically to do with romance. If you want to romance that character, you want to increase the intimacy meter, and you do that through the bond quests. And then once you've reached bond level 10, you can propose and get married. And while the game lets you date multiple characters at once, you'd probably want to hold off and just choose one character to marry, because there is a mechanic they've added into this game which allows you to marry multiple characters without actually cheating on them. They've added a multiple fates mechanic, which will become known to you once you've married a character, will come to you a few days after you've gotten married, telling you that there's a strange portal that's appeared in the Fate Weaver Shrine. And if you go to the Fate Weaver Shrine, you'll find a portal which, if you approach it, allows you to jump over to another fate. So at this point, you'll only have played through one fate. When you jump over to the next one, your intimacy level with your current spouse will return back down to level 4, and that's the intimacy level, not bond level. Bond levels are unaffected, it's just the intimacy level of your current partner which is affected. It will go back down to level 4, and all of the other progress will carry over into your next fate, and that always carries over whenever you jump between different fates. It's literally just your bond with your spouse that is affected. And then you move over to your second fate, carrying over everything else, and you are able to romance another character and marry them. And then once you've married another character, you can always go back to your first fate where you will still be married to your first spouse. So you can jump between fates with no consequences, and you can marry everyone. You can romance the entire world of Azuma without any consequences. And I know a lot of Rune Factory players are going to like this because it means that we can now romance multiple characters without having to have multiple save files, which was the only option we had prior to this. So then moving on to after game content. So once you've finished the main storyline, you then have the option to go around romancing everyone using the fates mechanic that I already talked about. There's also an after-game final dungeon, which I personally haven't gotten to yet, but I know it exists. Apparently it's quite short, but I don't know the details. But obviously with farming being streamlined, it does mean that there's a bit less to do, but you can still continue to improve your towns and max out the town level if that's what you're interested in doing. There's a lot of customization options there, so that's cool. So personally, what I've been doing is just trying to romance everyone, because why the heck not? I mean, I want an excuse to continue diving into the game anyway, because I've been enjoying it so much. And so I have one. And the life simulation aspects of these types of games has always been one of my favorite aspects. And moving on to the last point, which is performance. So I've been playing the Switch 1 version of the game. I do not have the Switch 2 version because I don't have a Switch 2, and I haven't been playing the PC version, but it is also available on PC. To my knowledge, the PC version has the best performance, which is not surprising at all, and the Switch 2 version will run better than the Switch 1 version. However, personally, the Switch 1 version has been running honestly fairly well. It runs a lot better than Rune Factory 5 does. It's perfectly playable, it's not immersion breaking, but there are still some slight issues. There is some slight pop-in, which is honestly not that big of a deal, to be honest with you, but there is also some frame rate drops every now and then when you load into another area. There might be a little bit of lagging when you load into a new area when it's trying to load in all of the characters and textures and everything. There is also, like, characters in the distance, when they're quite far away, they move weirdly until you approach them. That's also, to me at least, not immersion breaking. Everything loads up properly and frame rates don't drop while you're in an area once it's all loaded in properly. And it doesn't take long for everything to load in properly either. So in terms of performance on the base Switch, it's definitely much better than Rune Factory 5, and it's perfectly playable. But if you are kind of picky with that sort of thing, or if performance is really important to you, you might want to get it on Switch 2 or PC. Now, there's also rumours that it's going to be coming out on PS5, but these are rumours. I'd like to reinforce that these are just rumours. There's been no official announcements. So overall opinions, I love this game. It's personally my favourite Rune Factory game. Rune Factory has had its up and downs. Rune Factory 4 was probably one of the more popular games. I know that it's basically the fan favourite and considered to be potentially the best one in the series. Rune Factory 5 was a big disappointment for everyone. And Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is definitely a step in the right direction. And so things are looking quite bright for Rune Factory now, and I'm very happy because I love this franchise. And so I am really looking forward to seeing what Rune Factory 6 will be like, which will be the next installment in the mainline series of Rune Factory games. But I'm also really excited to see more of these spin-offs, especially I would really like another spin-off set in the Eastern continent now, because I'm obsessed with this. This being my favourite Rune Factory game, I would like more like this, please. This is good. I like this. If you've been playing Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Have you been enjoying it as much as I have? Or is this not your favourite installment in the Rune Factory series? I'd like to know. I'm very interested. I am very nosy. But also, I really need people to gush about Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma with, because I love this game. It's one of my favourite games that have released this year so far, and I can't get enough of it. So anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye!